Chinese leader Xi Jinping on agreement with Russia, saying, "We are preparing for war." The Chinese president told his generals to fight bravely, quote unquote. The set of agreements signed by China and Russia during the visit of Chinese President Xi Jinping to Moscow was essentially the beginning of the creation of a single Russian-Chinese bloc, which aims to deal with the threat of the US and the West as a whole. After the historic agreement, Chinese leader Xi Jinping, speaking at the annual meeting of the Chinese parliament, is preparing China for war, as Foreign Affairs reveals. This is astonishing. Xi Jinping addressed the issue of readiness for war in 4 separate speeches, and in one of them, he even reportedly told his generals to fight bravely. And this is going on when the West is, of course, lacking armaments, because they've all been flooding Ukraine into the abyss of the Ukraine hole. Now, the content here of the agreements, which were signed between China and Russia, makes it clear that they aim at the joint military strengthening of the 2 superpowers to the extent that they cannot be threatened by the Western countries, and economic independence so that they are not influenced by the US dollar, by the American banking system, and finally from American sanctions, which have effects due to the use of the dollar. In between speeches, his government also announced a 7.2% increase in China's defense budget, which has doubled in the past decade. The plans to make the country less dependent on foreign imports of military equipment, as well as plans to make the country less dependent on foreign grain imports. In recent months, Beijing has unveiled new military preparedness laws, new air raid shelters in cities across the strait from Taiwan, and new national defense mobilization offices across the country. The first sign that this year's meeting of the National People's Congress and the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference might not be ordinary, and a war preparation came on March 1st, where the Chinese Communist Party's top theoretical journal, CCP, published an article titled, "Under Xi Jinping's guidance on strengthening the military, we will forge victory," it said. Chinese President Xi Jinping, during the final session of the National People's Congress, Beijing, March 2023, the text stated, among other things, that the modernization of the national defense and the army must be accelerated. It also calls for the intensifying military-civil fusion, Xi Jinping's policy of requiring private companies and political institutions to serve China's military modernization efforts. In his first speech on March 5th, Xi Jinping appeared to single out China's industrial base for struggle and conflict. He warned, "In the coming period, the risks and challenges we face will increase and become more serious." So obviously he says that he's saying things, he's not saying empty words. Now he says only when people think in one place, work hard in one place, help each other in the same boat, unite as one, dare to fight, and are good in battle, can they continue to win new and greater victories, he said. Xi Jinping also blasted the United States directly in his speech, breaking with his practice of not naming Washington as an adversary except in historical contexts. On March 6, Xi gave a second speech presenting a vision of Chinese self-sufficiency that went much further than any of his previous talks on the subject, saying that China's path to modernization depends on breaking its technological dependence on foreign economies, meaning, of course, the United States and other industrialized democracies. He also stressed that he wants China to end its dependence on imports of grain and processed products. In his third speech on March 8, Xi Jinping also called for national defense education, campaigned to unite society behind the PLA. And in his fourth speech, and his first and third term president, on March 13, Xi Jinping announced that the essence of the grand rejuvenation campaign was unification of the motherland. Although he has hinted at the connection between the absorption of Taiwan and his much-hyped campaign to essentially make China great again, he has rarely, if ever, done so with such clarity. This time he's very clear with this. This is from Pro News. I've translated for you from a Greek article. Please leave your comments and thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box.